In 2022, neuroscientists at the University of Michigan accidentally captured something remarkable. An 87-year-old patient suffering from epilepsy was undergoing a routine electroencephalogram, EEG, when they unexpectedly experienced cardiac arrest and died during the procedure. The continuing brain recordings revealed something unprecedented. In the 30 seconds after the heart stopped beating, the patient's brain produced patterns of activity normally associated with conscious cognitive processes, including dreaming, memory retrieval, and meditation. Could your final moments be the most brilliant display of awareness you'll ever experience? The recordings showed powerful synchronized gamma wave oscillations, the fastest brain waves, operating at frequencies between 30 and 100 Hz. These were organized, purposeful brain activities specifically appearing in what neuroscientists call the brain's hot zone for conscious experience, the temporoparietal-occipital junction. Dr. Jimor Borjigian, who led the research team, described this as a surge of neurophysiological coherence and connectivity. Similarly, neurologist Dr. Sampania explained, "What we discovered was that brain activity doesn't just suddenly stop when the heart stops beating. Instead, it seems like heightened activity occurs precisely when you'd expect consciousness to be lost." If visualized, these brain scans reveal something counterintuitive. Rather than showing diminishing activity as oxygen levels drop, certain regions light up with unprecedented intensity. The areas showing this surge are precisely those associated with our higher cognitive functions, the very neural networks that make us self-aware, capable of dreaming, and able to process memories. These same circuits activate during deep meditation states in Buddhist monks and other experienced meditators. This neurological evidence provides a possible explanation for the commonly reported phenomenon of life review, the experience of seeing your life flash before your eyes during near-death situations. What was once dismissed as folklore may actually have a measurable neurological basis. Some skeptics suggest these findings merely represent the brain's chaotic final activity as neurons fire randomly during oxygen deprivation. However, the organized, synchronized nature of these oscillations contradicts this explanation. Random neural firing would produce disorganized patterns, not the coherent, higher-order brainwave synchronization observed in these studies. The cross-species evidence strengthens this discovery. In 2013, researchers at the University of Michigan conducted experiments with rats, measuring their brain activity during cardiac arrest. The results revealed a striking similarity. The dying rat brains showed highly organized electrical patterns with greater power and coherence than the conscious brain. Lead researcher Dr. Borjigian noted that the near-death brain exhibits activity with characteristics of consciousness even higher than in the waking state. What could explain this paradoxical increase in brain activity at death? Several theories exist. One suggests that inhibitory neurons, which normally suppress brain activity, require more energy than excitatory neurons, so they're the first to shut down when oxygen levels drop. This removal of neural inhibition creates a state where excitatory networks fire with unusual intensity. Another theory proposes this might be an evolutionary adaptation. Heightened awareness during life-threatening situations could potentially increase survival chances, allowing for clearer thinking or memory retrieval of similar dangers previously encountered. A third possibility relates to the neurochemical cascade triggered during dying. The brain releases a flood of neurotransmitters, including dopamine and endorphins, along with psychedelic compounds like DMT, dimethyltryptamine, which some researchers speculate may naturally occur in the human brain during extreme stress. Dr. Cameron Shaw, a neuroanatomist who studies brain death, offers another perspective. Different parts of the brain are differently sensitive to the loss of oxygen and nutrients. The cerebral cortex, which is responsible for higher functions like awareness and thought, is actually quite resilient in the initial stages of oxygen deprivation compared to areas controlling basic functions. What this reveals about the subjective experience of dying is profound. Your final moments might be characterized by an intensified state of consciousness, perhaps the most vivid mental experience of your life, combining elements of dreaming, memory recall, and profound awareness all at once. While the body undergoes systematic shutdown, the mind might be experiencing an entirely different reality, one characterized by heightened awareness rather than diminishing consciousness. This reframes what it means to die, a final burst of mental clarity and vividness as neural activity surges in consciousness-generating regions. This might explain reports from cardiac arrest survivors who describe awareness during periods when they were clinically dead. Dr. Pania has documented numerous cases through the awareness during resuscitation study, where patients accurately recalled events that occurred while they showed no clinical signs of consciousness. Of course, measuring brain activity is not the same as measuring conscious experience. We can observe the neural correlates of consciousness, but cannot directly access the subjective experience they might represent. The technical term for this is the hard problem of consciousness, the gap between measuring physical brain states and understanding the subjective experience those states create. As Dr. Christoph Koch, a leading consciousness researcher, explains, even with our most sophisticated equipment, we're still essentially looking at electricity moving through tissue. What that electricity feels like from the inside, near-death experiences, between science and mystery. This gap between measurable brain activity and inner experience becomes even more fascinating when we consider those who've temporarily crossed death's threshold. In hospitals worldwide, approximately 10 to 20% of cardiac arrest survivors report vivid, structured experiences during periods when their brains showed minimal activity. Experiences so consistent across cultures and backgrounds that they challenge our fundamental understanding of consciousness. These near-death experiences, or NDEs, present science with a remarkable paradox. How can thousands of people share such strikingly similar journeys when their brains should be incapable of creating coherent experiences? Dr. Bruce Grayson, Professor Emeritus at the University of Virginia and one of the world's leading NDE researchers, has documented over 1,000 cases throughout his career. What's striking is the remarkable consistency of these experiences, he explains. Patients from vastly different backgrounds report the same core elements: a feeling of profound peace, moving through darkness toward light, encountering deceased loved ones, and sometimes a life review. The consistency suggests something more than random hallucinations. Consider the case of Maria, a migrant farm worker in Seattle who, during cardiac arrest, reported floating above her body and observing a tennis shoe on the hospital's third-floor ledge. A social worker later verified this detail, finding the shoe exactly as Maria described it, a detail impossible to know from her hospital bed. Such verified perceptions challenge purely neurological explanations. This consistency extends across cultures and time periods. The International Association for Near-Death Studies has collected accounts from individuals of diverse religious backgrounds: Christians, Muslims, Hindus, Buddhists, and atheists, all describing similar core experiences despite their different belief systems. While cultural interpretation varies, the fundamental elements remain stable: separation from the physical body, movement through darkness or a tunnel, encountering brilliant light, and feeling overwhelming peace. The scientific challenge intensifies because these experiences occur during cardiac arrest when the brain should be incapable of generating coherent thoughts. Dr. Sam Pania, Director of Critical Care and Resuscitation Research at NYU Langone Health, explains, when the heart stops, blood flow to the brain ceases within seconds. Within 10 to 20 seconds, brain activity required for consciousness flatlines. Yet paradoxically, this is precisely when many people report heightened awareness, clarity, and complex thought processes. Scientific explanations for NDEs center on several neurological mechanisms. Cerebral anoxia, oxygen deprivation causing abnormal neural firing, represents one possibility. Others include the release of endorphins and neurochemicals during extreme stress, or the dying brain entering REM-like dream states. Dr. Kevin Nelson, a neurologist at the University of Kentucky, proposes that NDEs might involve REM intrusion, where elements of REM sleep overlap with wakefulness. During extreme stress, he suggests, the boundaries between different states of consciousness can blur, allowing dreamlike experiences to intrude into waking awareness. The release of DMT, dimethyltryptamine, a naturally produced psychedelic compound, offers another potential mechanism. Dr. Rick Strassman's research revealed that DMT produces experiences remarkably similar to NDEs, including the sensation of leaving one's body and encountering beings of light. While these neurological explanations provide valuable insights, they struggle to account for cases where patients report verified perceptions that would be impossible if their experiences were merely hallucinations. Dr. Pania's awareness during resuscitation study attempted to test such claims by placing hidden visual targets in hospital resuscitation areas, visible only from ceiling height. The study found evidence of awareness during cardiac arrest, with 39% of survivors reporting perceptions during resuscitation, though specific target identifications remained inconclusive. People who have these experiences often describe watching their resuscitation from a position near the ceiling, Dr. Parnia notes. They report details of their resuscitation that they couldn't have known, including conversations between medical staff or specific technical aspects of the procedures being performed. Recent findings about gamma wave activity in dying brains provide potential explanations for some NDE aspects. The synchronized gamma oscillations in dying brains resemble patterns associated with memory recall and integration, potentially explaining the life review component. Dr. Jimol Borjagin's research showing dying brains can exhibit greater electrical coherence than conscious brains offers a mechanism for the heightened awareness many NDE survivors describe. NDEs typically produce profound and lasting impact on experiencers. Dr. Grayson's research demonstrates that survivors often undergo significant psychological and behavioral changes, reduced fear of death, increased empathy, diminished materialism, and enhanced spirituality. These transformations tend to persist for decades, suggesting these brief experiences carry profound psychological weight, unlike typical hallucinations or dreams. This transformative aspect poses another scientific puzzle. If NDEs are merely hallucinations, why do they consistently lead to profound, long-lasting positive changes? Typical hallucinations rarely produce such beneficial transformations. The scientific community remains divided on interpreting these experiences. Materialist neuroscientists maintain that NDEs ultimately result from complex brain processes during crisis. Others, including some neuroscientists and consciousness researchers, suggest consciousness might not be as dependent on the brain as traditionally assumed. Dr. Pim van Lommel, a Dutch cardiologist who conducted a large prospective study on NDEs, notes, if consciousness and memories can be experienced independently of brain function, it could be that the brain acts more as a transceiver of consciousness rather than as a producer. Such interpretations align with philosophical traditions viewing consciousness as a fundamental rather than emergent property of reality. These experiences create a genuine scientific challenge. They occur at the boundary between life and death, in moments difficult to study with current technologies. While brain activity can be measured, the corresponding subjective experience remains accessible only to the experiencer. Near-death experiences represent a scientific mystery at the intersection of neuroscience, psychology, and consciousness studies, challenging our understanding of when consciousness ends and raising profound questions about the relationship between mind and brain.